Something weird's going on today, guys. I have never seen a fire truck go down our road with its lights on before. I've never seen a fire truck go down our road, period. And that's the second one today. Good morning. You hear that? That's a tractor running. 8300. Dad's gonna go move some dirt up on that ditch bank spoils that I was showing you a week ago. Okay, we have got a few different things that we're gonna work on today. I'm gonna try and avoid working on the combine altogether, although we'll see. Might run out of stuff to do and have to get to that. But we've got some projects with our grain bin stuff that we need to do. We need to estimate how many bushels are left in the bins. So in order to do that, we've got to take some measurements and do some math. And that'll give us a really good idea of how many bushels are out there so we can kind of do some planning and what our inventories are. Phil has already hauled some out of all of the bins basically, so we should have a cone down towards the center sump to figure into our calculations, which makes them a little bit trickier, but we got to calculate out the depth and the, obviously I know the diameter of the bins and all that stuff. But so we're gonna work on that here this morning. We've also got some electrical projects that we're gonna work on out there here later today, assuming it's not too nasty out. It's supposed to be warm today, but pretty windy, so we'll see how all that goes. But anyway, I need a tape measure and a notepad, and we got to go take some measurements and some notes. All right, well, we're gonna start here. This is our wet bin. It's basically empty, but there is still a little bit of corn in here, mostly just the dry cone and not even the whole dry cone at that. But it's fairly easy to measure what we've got here. So this is a 21-foot diameter bin. So we know the diameter, which means we know the radius. So we can write that down. Now we also need to know how deep the corn is along the sidewall. So basically from right here to the floor, how deep is that? And we can do that from the outside here. So we know that the corn level is right there. And I know that this bin, the floor stops right here. It's hollow underneath, there's corn there. There's a false floor that's this bolt row all the way around. So we need to measure from basically right here to right there. We're gonna call it 32 inches. Now in the center on this bin, our depth is 0, and so that's basically the only information that we need. We can do all our calculations from there. So at the sidewall it's 32 inches, in the center it's 0, it's 21-foot diameter. We can calculate out the cone volume based on that information. And once we get to volume, then we can convert to bushels. So this one was easy. This bin, however, has quite a bit more in it and will be a little bit more difficult. So we're going to go inside up top and measure. We're going to look at it, see what things look like. First of all, I assume it's going to be a cone down to the center and it'll be even all the way around. So we can measure the height on one of the sheets up there. Obviously, I'm not going to measure from the grain level all the way down to the ground because, well, I don't have a tape measure. Well, I do have a tape measure big enough to do it, but there's easier ways to do it. So all of these rings, sheets, are the same height. So we can measure one of those, and then we can measure the grain to the nearest ring and the difference, and then we can calculate out from there how deep it is, taking account again for our false floor on the bottom. So we're going to start with that. We're going to measure that distance from this row of bolts down to the concrete. So that distance is 15 inches, and I also measured from right here to right here to know that our sheets are all 44 inches tall. Now we start climbing. Okay, so we do have a cone here. I'm clearly pushing it down, but we're fairly even all the way around. It's a little higher over there than over there. We're gonna kind of eyeball it and look for the middle even spot, and then we're gonna do some measuring. So we're gonna go from right about that rib up to the top, and we're gonna call it 3 feet. Close enough. So we've got about 3 feet of ring showing all the way around the top. Okay. Now, the rather difficult part of this is figuring out how deep our cone is. So we come down here into the center, to the bottom, and we basically need to measure from here up to our sidewall, or where we were on the sidewall, which it's taller than me, so we're talking about 7 or 8 feet probably. How am I going to measure that? There is, I should mention that this angle that the corn kind of flows down here is relatively constant, and we know that. It's about 30-degree slope. So we could do the math and figure it from there, but slightly more accurate if I actually measure it. Well, best I can tell, it's about 10 feet, but that's really hard to measure. So I'll figure the calculation out with a 30-degree and see how close I am to that, and we'll go from there. But it's just I can't reach high enough to, or see high enough to get my tape measure in the right spot. It makes it sort of difficult. So anyway, we've got what we need to be fairly close here. Now we get to do that one. All right, well, this one is going to be more difficult. As you can see, the cone has not made it to the sidewall, which makes this quite a bit more difficult. So we've got to figure out what we've got for a cone diameter. Or we try and flatten it off. That'll take forever. Yeah, all right, this is going to take a lot of math on this one and a lot of figuring, but we can figure out what our... Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so we're going to figure out from the sidewall here where we were up to the top, or really to this ring, and we'll figure out what the peaked capacity was or would have been had this been peaked all the way up in the center, and then we can figure out the diameter of the cone that we've got drawn out and subtract those bushels off of it, more or less. Yeah, that should work. All right, we got to do some measuring here. First thing is from this spot up to this seam, and then we can count rings from there. And it looks like we're gonna have to walk around and try and find the middle point, because we were a little bit uneven. It's higher over here than it is over there. Yeah. All right, so I walked halfway around the bin here. Here's what I have decided. So we are very close to that ring right there. You can see that row of bolts. It's right. It is right here, isn't it? Yeah, it's right there. So we're gonna call it just. There's 14 rings of corn. There's 16 rings in this bin, 2 rings showing. So we're gonna call it 14 rings deep. We'll do the calculation from there. These are also 44-inch rings, but we'll measure that on the outside just to be sure. I measured the distance from this peak of the cone to the wall. It is 4 feet. We're going to assume that that is a constant all the way around, although it's not quite, because if you can tell, I don't know if you can tell, but it's much higher by the ladder over there than it is right here. But we're gonna leave that in as our little fudge factor and being conservative, and we're gonna figure it to this peak right here. And I just remembered, yeah, whatever. You guys are probably yelling at your screens on that last bin of just measure the slope, right? We can figure out the height of our cone if we know the distance from here to the center straight across, and we know the distance from here down. Well, Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So if we measure this slope from here down to the bottom, we can figure that distance out, and we can figure out exactly what our cone is. So I'm going to measure that. Looks like 233, 19 and a half feet, we're going to call it. I probably could call it 20, and we'd be fine. Pythagoras would be proud of me. All right, we are momentarily back on solid ground. That's all of our corn bins. So I've talked about this GSI dryer over here that we have, this top dry, and we talked about using it this fall. We almost did the one day, but we decided against it. Just never really came into play, and we didn't need it. We kind of made the decision earlier this summer that we needed to cash out more grain this fall, haul it into town and sell it, deliver it, rather than filling our bins up and storing everything because cash flow purposes, and rather than, yeah, whatever. Just because a lot of our expenses are due here in the fall, we needed the cash to do it. So that bin never actually got used. It's sitting there empty. One of our little bins out back here, that one also is sitting empty because that one we usually would put wheat in, and our wheat was not great this year, and we decided that we didn't want, or the same thing basically, we needed to cash some of it out and not store quite so much wheat. So that's why, you know, some of these bins aren't real full, because we sold them. We had enough grain to fill them, we just decided to sell it already basically. So we do need to do this bin here. This one's got soybeans in it, so we're gonna climb up there, and Phil has actually been hauling beans out the last few days. He's hauled probably a little over 10,000 bushels of beans out. So yeah, I can't climb and hold a camera at the same time. All right, so here is our soybean bin, and you can see it's not full. We've hauled a fair amount out already, so we're gonna count the rings down from the top and measure. But it is a nice even cone basically all the way around. And if you guys think that I'm OCD with what I'm doing with the combine cleaning, I'm not this OCD. Do you see this? You probably don't see it real well. Focus, camera. Well, yeah, not focusing. Point being, our bin walls are really clean because Phil comes in here with a broom and sweeps them down. After he pulls a few loads out, he'll come in and sweep them down. It's crazy. But whatever. You guys clean the inside of your bins? Alright, so aside from the fact that they're all falling in on me because, well, I'm standing on them and pushing them down, we are about a foot below that seam. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 rings above us, which means I think this is a 9-ring bin. So for 4 down, that means this is the 5th ring. We're a foot below the top of the 5th ring. And it was 24 feet from the sidewall down to the bottom of the cone. So we can do our math from there. Okay, so we've got everything from that grain system. Now we just have these 2 little 21-foot Butler bins here. These got wheat in them. Honestly, I haven't been in them. I have no idea how much. I think they're full, but we're gonna go up and take some measurements. Yeah, she's full. She's full. Like, I don't even want to climb in there full. So how are we gonna figure this? It's not really a cone because it's been leveled off, but it is humped up a little bit past the sidewall. We're gonna measure up a little higher past what the sidewall would be, because, well, if you leveled this off so it was all flat, that's where we're going to try and measure to, where it would be if it was flat level. This one is the same, and we're going to call them about 6 inches above the end of the top of the sidewall. Now, these sidewalls, these rings are different height than all of those other bins, so we got to measure these and count them. I'm not sure how many rings are here, but we'll get the total depth. They're 32-inch rings, and there are 9 of them. Okay, I think we've got all the numbers that we need. Those bins are all 44-inch rings, and we know the depth, we know the cones, we know the depth in that one. We've got the floor heights off of the concrete on everything. Yeah, we can do some math. Looks like our overhead bin is also full. I believe it's soybeans, but I'll have to ask Phil, see what he's got up there. Okay, time to do some math, and we're going to cheat. We're going to use an online calculator. But we're going to start with, well, let's start with our wet bin, because that's where we started. This one's going to be an easy one. So we know that our bin is 21-foot diameter, and we have 32 inches of corn in it. Actually, I was talking to Phil, and he said from where that bolt hole is for that false floor that I was telling you about that's in there, he said really the line is about 3 inches below that, which means that our floor is exactly a foot off the concrete, the top of the floor. So we're gonna add 3 inches to this. Well, that'd make it 35. We're gonna call it 36 because we're rounding here. So we go to our calculator. We're gonna hit corn, shelled corn, because it's shelled, it's not ear corn. Diameter of the bin, 21 feet. Height of the grain on the sidewall, 3 feet. Height of the peak, this is a negative 3 feet, because we know that it's at the floor, it's 0 in the center, so we're going to put a negative. And our test weight, 56. Our corn has been pretty good test weight at 56 pounds, so we're just going to use that for all of them. So we hit calculate. There is 571 bushels in that bin. Yep, that'll work. Now, accuracy is important, but for the purposes of planning and what we're using these calculations for, we're going to be on the conservative side. So we're just going to round that one down to 500 because it's a round even number. And we're not talking about that many bushels anyway. So I'm writing that down. 21 foot wet bin, 500 bushels. All right, next, we're going to do our 42 foot Sukup bin. So we know that, well, this number is actually a 12. So we got to do a little bit of math. So we need to figure out how deep it is. I know that bin is 10 rings. So we're going to come over here. We're going to type in 10 rings times their 44-inch rings. Okay. I know that we were 3 feet from the top, so it means we're going to go minus 36 inches, and then minus, instead of 15, we're going to call it 12. So we have 392 inches of corn divided by 12 gives us 32.66 feet. Again, round down, 32 and a half. So we come back up here. This is a 42 foot diameter bin. Height of the grain, 32.5 feet. Now we need to know the height of this peak, and we don't have that information very handy. But here's what we can do. Go to our trigonometry calculator over here, because again, we're cheating. And we know we need to find side A. We know B because B is going to be the radius of the bin, right? Half of the diameter. So B, instead of 42, it's going to be 21 feet. And we also know the angle of repose of corn is 30 degrees. So as you're drawing out, corn out of a bin, the angle, you need to really think of this as flipped upside down. But this angle right here is going to be 30 degrees. So we're going to type that in here, 30 degrees, and hit the calculate button. And then up here, it says side A, which is the one we're looking for, is about 12.1 feet. We're going to go with 12. So we come back to our calculator, type in a negative 12. Calculate. 33,498. We'll call it 33,500 bushels. Okay, now the tricky one, this 54 footer, and it's tricky because the cone did not go out to the sidewall. So what we're going to do is figure it flat. Let's assume that the whole bin was flat at that 14 rings level, 2 rings down from the top, and then we'll figure out the cone separately. So if we go up here, it is a 54 foot diameter bin. Height of the grain, we are 14 rings, so 14 times 44 minus 12 inches for the floor equals 604 inches divided by 12 is 50.33 feet. We're going to call it 50 and a half because it was a little high. So 50.5. And then the peak, we're just going to put in 0. We want to know what it was if that bin was perfectly level at that level. And 56, calculate. Okay, so 98,120. And we're going to write this down on a separate paper somewhere. All right, so now what we need to do is figure out what the cone was. But remember, that cone didn't go all the way out to the sidewall. So we measured it. It was about 4 feet in from each all the way around, which means that instead of a diameter of 54, we're going to use a diameter of 46. And the height of the grain is going to be equal to our peak, so we need to go back to our trig calculator here. And in this one, diameter is 46. That means this is 23. That means that A should be about 13 feet. So our height of our grain is 13 feet. Our cone then is also going to be, actually, no, we're going to do this as 0 feet. The height of the peak is 13 feet. We want to know how much corn would be in that peak. calculate that out, we get 6,110 bushels. So down here where I wrote down my 98,120, we're going to take 6,110 and subtract that from the 98,000. Equals 92,000 bushels. So we're going to say there's 92,000 bushels in that bin. All right, so then we get everything added up and we know what our total inventory of corn is. And then the next thing I went to do was go and see, I'm going to not show you all these numbers, but basically I went to my John Deere and I added up what the combine told us we had for total bushels. And then Phil provided me some sheets here that tell me how many bushels we have hauled in already this fall. And the combine number minus what we've hauled in should equal what's in the bin. We're off a little bit. Whether that's because I measured wrong and I couldn't figure out exactly what's in the bins right, or my combine yield monitor was off a little bit, I don't know. This number, the ones that we've hauled in, is the only one that I know is actually accurate. So anyway, that gets us really close to knowing where we're at with grain inventories, at least on the corn side. I'm going to do the same thing for the bin of beans and the wheat and figure that stuff up, but you've seen the process. You know how that works. Okay, now that we've got that done, this video is going to be a long one today. I apologize right now because I can already tell it's long and it's going to get longer. We've got some electrical projects that we're going to work on. Brock should be here pretty soon, and like I said, I don't want to make him power wash today. So I'm going to have him help me with some other stuff. We've got this box right here that needs to be installed. This is a disconnect box. And I'll show you why it needs to get installed here in just a minute. But I'm going to go out, it's grain bin stuff. We're going to look at our project and see what else we're going to need supply-wise and stuff, and work on that this afternoon. So on our big grain bin out here, we've got these aeration fans. And they're there to keep the corn in condition and make sure that it doesn't get hot and all of that stuff. Well, this one here tripped out one day this fall. It's been a few weeks ago. And we were trying to figure out what happened. Looking in this panel and stuff. And then I opened up this box. And we got some problems. See that wire? That is no good. It was rubbing on that bolt up there, and it actually rubbed through the insulation and had a dead short. Melted this whole thing up. So that box is going to get replaced, which means we got to disconnect the wires. We got to disconnect this conduit, the stuff coming out of the bottom here, and apparently we have some other wires that just pass through that box that we need to get out of there and stuff, and replace that. So that is on the agenda. We also have some conduit run here for light fixtures that never got finished. The conduit is all there, and so we're gonna try and finish that and pull some wires and put some switches and plugs in and do all of that good stuff and finish this project up, since we've got a halfway decent day and need something different to do. The first thing we're gonna do though is kill the power. We'll shut this fan down, and then so our aeration fans are, for the most part, all run off of our phase converters. We don't want to have to let that generator there run all of the time while we are trying to run those aeration fans, because they'll run 24/7 for a while here. So we actually have a set of rotary phase converters that we use to get three-phase power for the motors on our aeration fans. Those phase converters are out here, tucked in back here. So now we're done with them for now, so we can shut those down. And just for good measure, we're going to come in here to our main three-phase panel and trip the main breaker. So there should be no power going out to those. This one here is the breaker for that box that was open. It was already off. I just like to have two disconnects between me and the power. Just need a little video evidence of how this is all wired up right now. The colors of the wires. It really doesn't matter, except for that if I switch any of these wires, like this one that's got the white tape up here, it's the white tape down here. If I had these switched, our fan would run backwards. So that's why I'm just trying to make sure that we get them all back right. Okay, I got all of the wires disconnected and the box connectors, the nuts off. I've got to get a wrench to get that bolt and these two, the mounting bolts that mount it to this plate off of there. And then that should be good. We can switch this out. Shouldn't take much. So I'm gonna go get the wrench, probably an impact and a wrench, and yeah, we'll take this one back in the shop, knock out the holes that we need for the other one, and make sure we got everything right. Okay, it should. Yeah, it's almost loose. That one there's still on because it's. Yeah. Hold on. Now it should come right off. Pull the wires out. Cool. All right, let's take this one back to the shop. Well, they are the exact same box, so this should be a pretty easy thing. Except, oh, you gotta be kidding me. Dad, what the heck? He just cut random holes. He didn't use the knockouts. That makes this exponentially harder. Okay, this is what it is. We'll fix it. You can see that screw there. We definitely got some scorching and some burning and some major melting there. So I think we should cut those ones off so we don't have that problem with this box. Be a good idea. Well, I'm working on cutting a hole, but I found the dullest hole saw known to man, so I give up. I'm going to go buy a new one. Yeah. Dad needs a ride home from the field. He wanted to take the backhoe up there, so I'm going to go pick him up, move him around. Then Brock should be here, and yeah, we'll go from there. Hey, Brock. Did you know that the internet is really mad at me for not buying you lunch the other day?
Hey, that's all me.
Are you kidding me? I offered. I tried to get him to go to lunch. They're mad at me. So, here's the deal. I know you're not here as long today, but I need a hole saw. We got to go to town, so we're going to go eat lunch. And I'm buying. Got it? Internet? Leave me alone. All right, we got lunch and a new super sharp hole saw. So we're going to finish this drilling. Okay, I even cut those bolts off. So now we are good to go here. Take this out and get it mounted up. Get the wiring back in it. Okay, our box is in place. We're getting it bolted up, and we got to get the nuts on the conduits. And then we'll worry about wiring. Okay, our box is secured. The conduit is secured. My hole got a little big because of that dull console that I was using. So we're going to have to get the caulk gun out and just caulk it up. We should be using watertight seals and connectors there, but for some reason that's not what got put in what was there, and this is what was here, so this is what we're using. We'll seal it up with some caulk, it'll be fine. Anyway, we need some electrical tools, pliers, wire strippers to get these wires put back in where they need to go. Basically, we just need to trim this one. And what we're going to do is, because this one was in kind of this far terminal, we're going to trim off the bad stuff here and put it in the first terminal. It's closer, it doesn't need the length, and then we'll just make sure we match the according wire coming out the bottom is the same. So I gotta go get some more tools. All right, we have got the supply side of this box done. All right, well, now the output side is good. Fuses, Brock, we need fuses. We're going to use the new ones out of the bags because I know those are all good. The other ones we'll have to test them, see which ones are bad. I think there's only one that's blown, but we'll have extras. And then we should be good on the fan side of it, although we're not going to start it up yet because we're still working through here with our 110 volt system. And yes, I'm well aware that neither the positive or the neutral wire in 110 volt is green or yellow. And I'm also aware there should be a third wire. I didn't do this, so we're gonna make it work with what it is. Technically, the conduit is metal and it acts as the ground, and then we've got a neutral, which I assume is the green wire, and a hot, which I assume is the yellow, but we'll trace them back to where they started from and make sure that we're good from there. These were put in 4 years ago when the bin was new. but it was late. Go ahead, Brock. It was like October when we finished putting the bin up, and the first week in November when the drag conveyor on the top went up. And so it was kind of a just make it work thing. And we put conduit in because we want a light over here, but it never actually got done and wired up. So now 4 years later, since we're fixing the fan and we're out here working on it again, well, we're gonna finish it. All right, well, we've done a little tracing and figuring and trying to figure out what is the middle of this project and where we're at and stuff. We have discovered that the yellow and the green wire coming out of there go into a junction box on the other side of the bin, and they're not hooked up there either. So we can hook them up from there easy enough. There's all the wires are there that we need to do it. We just got to make the connections, but that means nothing's connected and it's all dead, so that's good. So we've got we're gonna put a switch in this box to control a light that's gonna go right there. So we've got a ground, that'd be a neutral, and a power wire going from this box up to that light. They were already in there, and then we're running another power wire and the ground all the way through this box around to where our side draw is. Brock's pushing the fish tape in now, so we're gonna get the wire run and then we'll start making connections. Hold up, Brock. Okay. Pulling. It's windy. Sorry about the wind noise. All right, we got wire sticking out over there now, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this switch installed and then we'll work on down there. All right, well, we're making progress there. I got the switch wire down, we got the cover on there, and we got the wire pulled to the other side. We need to extend our conduit up a little bit more, and we got to make a plate to mount the box to where the light's going to go on. So I'm going to work on that. However, our packaging looks a little different this year. The tags, at least, the bags are the same. Yeah, the labels on the boxes are for sure different. Well, that NK box definitely doesn't go here. Must have made a mix up in the warehouse, because I know that the Golden Harvest and NK come out of the same plant. I get that, but I don't sell stuff in an NK box. So they shipped me the wrong box there. So this is what we got today. And I'm just going to check everything, make sure that we got the right amounts, and then we'll be good here. So as we were running back to the farm here, old Brock got the pager alarm went off. Brock is a volunteer on the local fire department and full-time paramedic. That is his full-time job, as well as volunteer EMT or medical with the local. So he got a call, he's got to go. I think he'll be back. He said it wouldn't take that long, but anyway, he's got to go. So I'm gonna let him go, and we're gonna keep working on our electrical project out there. I'm trying to remember where we were at and what all I need to get. Conduit, that's what I was after. All right, well, here's my plate. We'll see if that fits how my holes line up. I do need a piece of conduit. We need a 40-inch long piece of conduit, so I got some behind the office here. All right, well, I'm trying to get a box for the top there. And I had one, but I had covers in it, or the plugs and the holes in the end. And when I was trying to get them out, I broke the box. So I'm gonna run to town and buy a new box. But we're getting closer here. I was looking around for lights. I don't have any lights like I want to use, so I want to order some lights. We're not gonna be able to finish this project tonight anyway. Well, I'm sort of striking out here. Couldn't find the right box. The ones that they had at the local hardware store, they had 1/2-inch screws, threads in them for 1/2-inch conduit connectors, and ours is 3/4, and the lights that I'm going to screw into the top of the box is 3/4, so I couldn't really downsize it to 1/2-inch. That wouldn't work. So since I had to order lights anyway, I said, well, screw it, I'll just order a box when I order the lights. So all that stuff is coming. We're going to button up what we can here. Basically, I need to run some wire down that conduit that we put up, because the conduit is all there. We just need to stick a box on the end. So if we leave the wire stick out the top enough, we'll have plenty, and then we can make all our connections in this box and get it put back together too. And then all we gotta do is throw our box and our light up there and the light on the other one, and we'll be good. All right, that is wired, and before we get too far into this, or we're already way into this, but I am fully aware that my wires are the wrong color and that it should be a white and a black and not green and black, and green is super confusing because it's only for ground and this is a neutral. I get it, but Dad started it. I'm just continuing what he did, and I figured out what he did after 4 years, so I'll figure it out the next time too. It'll be okay. Okay, there we go. I even put a clamp on to hold the pipe in place, the conduit. So we'll mount our box up there when we get it, put a light on the top, and get her wired up, and that will be done. So I need to pick up this stuff and go back around and see what else we got to do. Looks like we got the same situation over here. We got our switch and everything in. We just are waiting on a light, and we're going to need a round cover for that box, which I do not have a round cover, or at least I didn't find one, but I suppose we could go look. And then that will be done as well. So we're good here. I'm going to hit this, engage this. We're going to get our fans running again, make sure that everything's working with them. One more thing here before we lose our daylight. This is the junction box where this conduit coming out of the ground is where all the power for those two fans and our 110 system is coming out. Ooh, I need to go check that breaker. So we need to make the connections in here. These two lines go to the box where we've got power now. These two are for another light stuff that Dad already had wired up. We just hadn't hooked them up in here. So I'm going to make those connections, which will then make everything that we just did live. I bet that's Brock. Something weird's going on today, guys. I've never seen a fire truck go down our road with its lights on before. I've never seen a fire truck go down our road, period. And that's the second one today. When he was here earlier, there was a fire west of here about 20 miles that like the fire departments on the west side of the county were covering. And so he was on standby for the rest to cover their areas. But then he left for a medical call, and then he called me and said they had a fire call. He asked me if I needed him to come back, and I said no, because we were good. But they had a fire call because I was in town and I saw him driving a fire truck on our way out. And my dad called me and said there was a barn burning up north of here where he's working. And then he said half an hour later another barn was burning. And so I assumed they were going up to assist with that fire, and then now they're heading south. I wonder if there's another one somewhere. Something weird's going on. I'll have to ask him about it tomorrow. Okay, I've got all the connections made. I'm a touch irritated with Dad because he doesn't do things right. It's okay. I started the phase converters back up and flipped all the breakers. So if everything is wired right, if I hit this switch, that light should come on. How about that? All right, so we've got light. That's good. Our other two lights, the switches, as long as we leave the switches off, it won't hurt anything. It'll be fine. Now, this fan should turn on with the button. Make sure it's pulling air in. Which it is. Let that get up to speed. Now this fan should start and hopefully goes the right direction. So far so good. Yep. Excellent. We got it working. Now we can hear where all the air leaks are. Like that one. No big deal. Bigger deal if it lets water in than if it lets air out. Well, I very quickly lost my sunlight here. So, at least we got that stuff done to what we needed to do or could do today. I've got a little bit of stuff to put back together in here with our covers on the electrical panels that I had to take off to trace wires. And some tools to put away. I gotta put these panels back on. Phil's taking a truck in to get it DOT'd and worked on, so I gotta go pick him up. But yeah, these are hot. Don't touch them. We'll worry about that tomorrow. And my tools. Okay, well, cleaned up the bench a little bit. I guess that's it for today. It was kind of fun and exciting doing something other than this project. But we do need to get back to this. So tomorrow we're going to work on it. Brock's going to be here again tomorrow and should be here all day. So we'll have him around more. I think in the morning we're going to do the service stuff on this. We're going to change the engine oil. We're going to change all the air filters, fuel filters, hydraulic oil filter. We might not do those because I did those this fall one day. Trying to fix that surging issue, so I'll have to look at the hours, but we may not do those. And then the cab air filters as well. Yeah, and then we'll probably do some more washing in the afternoon. I need to get the book out, see if we need to do hydraulic oil. I don't believe so, but we'll double check it and make sure, and see what else we can do tomorrow. I like to change those filters and stuff before we're done washing, because generally we get a little oil and dirt and stuff coming out of them filter housings that it's good to be able to wash off. So yeah, we'll do that. We're getting closer here. We do need to get the corn head hooked up and wash that too. Like, I probably should have been doing that, but haven't got there yet. So we'll do it. But anyway, have a great night, everybody. Like, subscribe, comments, questions down below, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching.